Most of us are not next to each other. Get on a call with them and ask for the pronunciation of the name. Get that before the meeting, not at the meeting. Very important. Then also look at the introduction. Why is it important that you look at the introduction? Because you may discover that there are certain aspects of the introduction that actually is confusing or there was an error. It's before the meeting that you should try and rectify this. Don't go to your meeting and look at the introduction for the first time, if possible. Sometimes, unfortunately, this is one of the worst case scenario. The first time you're going to see the introduction of the people you're going to introduce, it's at the meeting. That's bad. Because if there are errors, you'll be reading it there for the first time. If you don't know the person, is it male, female, something as simple as that, it would be good that you know who you're introducing. So read it in advance, even if you're going to just read it at the meeting. Very important. What else? You need to let your team members know that you should please show up on time. Why is this important? At the meeting, if something happens, life happens, maybe your car broke down, flat tire, an emergency came up. When all role players show up early, we don't have to replace anyone. If one or more members playing roles show up late, we need to replace them at the meeting. And telling your team members to show up early, it makes it easy to know that they're not showing up, perhaps 5 minutes to the start of the meeting. And it's okay to get replacement earlier than that. If they show up on time, you don't need to use replacements. If they don't show up on time, you're good to go and you start the meeting at the right time. The 1 p.m. should be 1 p.m., 12 p.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., 4 p.m. Very important. Now, what do you do at the meeting? Oh, and the last thing, please prepare your introduction. What does this Toastmaster of the day do? I like to tell people, from your perspective, make the assumption that the role of the Toastmaster of the day is simple. Why am I saying this? You need to slowly start believing that it's simple. Not only that, so you don't put extra pressure on yourself or extra focus on you. I believe the Toastmaster of the day is to help spotlight the highlights. The highlights are the speakers for the meeting. You should not be the focus. And if the agenda is well prepared, I think it's so easy to take people through the agenda. Your job is simply to do that. Take people through the agenda. Make it easier for people to want to come up, meaning great introductions, and the audience to pay attention to people coming up to speak and play roles. Don't make it so that you are the focus of the meeting. Don't put that much pressure on you. Show them who they should be focusing on by preparing adequately. This is simply the job of the Toastmaster of the day. And as I stated earlier, you are the chief timekeeper. What does this mean? If any segment is going long, it is your job to step in and remind them that, please, we need to cut this short. Or if for whatever reason, for instance, maybe we have 4 prepared speeches and only 2 speakers show up, it means we have more time. You as the Toastmaster can quickly inform the table topics master that you have time not only for 3 speakers, but for maybe 6 speakers, 7 speakers. That's your responsibility as the chief timekeeper. In the meeting, the Sergeant at Arms starts the meeting, introduces the president. President will introduce you. You will now tell them what your role is. Also, for the sake of guests, if you have guests at the meeting, let them know who we are as Toastmasters, if they are first-time guests. And the order of the meeting, as well as certain rules. Many clubs I go to, the sergeant at arms will tell you the rules. If they don't do that, then you can just state the rules they should follow. Things as simple as maybe turn off your phone, put it on silent or vibrate, participate in the meeting via writing love notes for those clubs that write love notes, giving applause, very important. I like to tell people, if the speaker makes you laugh, please laugh. Laugh with reckless abandon. If they make you cry, then cry. By all means, do that. People need to do these things, because if it's their first time, they don't know what the etiquette is in that meeting. As the Toastmaster of the day, simply uttering those words, it makes it easy for them to now do those things. Please let them know if the Sergeant at Arms has not done that in advance. You introduce the General Evaluator, who introduces their team. Afterwards, you have control of the meeting. You now go to prepared speeches, introduce the evaluators. The evaluators give the objectives of the speeches before introduce the speakers. When the prepared speeches are done, if your club votes for the best speaker, ask the timer for any disqualifications. Which speaker did not keep to time? If that person exists, you let the audience know we can vote for everyone else except the person that didn't keep to time. Then you introduce the table topics master for the table topics portion of the meeting. If your club is going to vote, ask the timer once again, did all the speakers keep to time? If there's any disqualification, let the audience know you can vote for all speakers except the person that spoke either well beyond time or under the allotted time of 1 minute. You do your voting and you hand back control to the general evaluator to handle the evaluation portion of the meeting. When the general evaluator is done, they'll give you back control and you end the meeting. Note, every time you come up, especially at the beginning and the very end, you're going to deliver a speech. Prepare your speech. Have a concluding speech that will wrap up the entire meeting before you hand over to the president. That's what you do during the meeting. Very easy, as I said, as long as you follow a well-prepared agenda. After the meeting, what do you do? Because I said there are 3 segments: before, during, after. After the meeting, what do you do? As the Toastmaster of the day, you're leading a team. You're the host of that meeting. You're the leader of this team, the people that come together to ensure we have very effective meeting, fun and educational. Afterwards, simply, my recommendation, send appreciation notes. It could be written or voice notes, or you could call. I lean more towards calling and voice notes because of the tone. I want people to hear your appreciation in your tone. Remember, communication is verbal and non-verbal, and your tone goes a long way. If somebody is frustrated and they read what you wrote, they may read it in a manner that you don't want to convey it. So I highly recommend calling or sending a voice note. However, if for whatever reason you can't do those two, writing a note of appreciation is okay. Why? To encourage them to want to do more, to play a role again, to speak again. Simply put. In summary, that is what the Toastmaster of the day does. And I like to say it is a simple job, but it does equip you with several skill sets if you try to do it properly. At this point, we have a few minutes. If anyone has questions, you can go ahead and ask questions right now. Or if you have a comment that you want to share regarding the role of Toastmaster of the day, please go ahead. You can raise your hand or share in the chat box.
Good evening, Team John.
Good evening, Toastmaster Hioma. Please go ahead.
I would like to know at what, whether, because I've looked at the agendas and I did see the amount of time allotted for the Toastmaster of the day. It's just like 5 minutes to introduce the general evaluator. So at what stage does the TMOD get that kind of time that will enable them make a speech, have some fun activities and all of that?
Thank you for that question, Toastmaster Hioma. You don't need to have fun activities if you only have 5 minutes. If you have 5 minutes and you have first-time guests, first, because they are first-time guests, if the president doesn't speak about this, you need to let them know who we are as Toastmasters. You need to let them know the way the meeting is going to run, and then introduce the general evaluator. If you only have 5 minutes, you're not going to have time for other fun activities. is when you have more time that you can squeeze in fun activities, as you put it, which is why you need to be familiar with the agenda in advance. Many times, the Toastmaster of the day, they like to put in fun activities and regale us with lots of stories. They go overboard in terms of the time allotted to them on the agenda. You need not do that. Pay attention to the time and do what the time permits. As I say, you should not be the highlight of the meeting. You should be a spotlight to help them focus on the highlights, which are the people delivering speeches and other role players. Does that help, Toastmaster Human?
Yes, it helps. Thank you.
You are welcome. That's a great question. Any other question or any other comments before we move on to the second and final role for today?
Okay, thank you very much, Toastmaster John. My question will be, like you said, I have a role to play tomorrow as a Toastmaster of the day, and I'm actually looking at the profile at the moment. I realized that the profile are quite, well, I use the word magnanimous. I mean, a lot. So what I'm trying to do here now is to summarize some of these profiles just to ensure that we don't overshoot the time for tomorrow's meeting. Do people feel bad when they don't hear the ambiguity in their profile? Do they feel a certain way that, this is not all that is about me? What's up? What has happened to my profile? Do they feel a certain way? Because personally, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable reading very long profiles. It actually takes a lot from our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Toastmaster Josephine. And thank you for going through the profiles today before the meeting tomorrow. People are different. What some of us do is we send information, questions to people and ask, please, can you give me an introduction? When you leave it so open-ended, people give you their introduction. And some, it's half a page, some 1 page, some 2 pages long. These introductions take time. What I would recommend is that you can condense it to what you consider to be important. The name, maybe some useful information, what they do, highest position they've attained at Toastmasters, favorite quote, whatever you consider to be important. And you can go the extra step because it's today and your meeting is tomorrow to inform them that please, we're not going to be able to read out your entire introduction because of time. Where you prepare them in advance. So those who get offended are not offended when at the meeting they're waiting to hear all they send to you and they just hear a few lines. And that is my recommendation. But in the future, a way to avoid this is just to ask specifically what you want to say. Name, job, when you join Toastmasters, favorite quotes. Very simple. It should be a condensed introduction so it doesn't take up that much time. Does that help, Toastmaster Josephine?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Toastmaster Josephine.
You are welcome. Now we're going to go ahead and speak about the second role we're covering tonight, which is the role of Speech Evaluator. Speech Evaluator, what do they do? Why should we evaluate our speeches? If you want to grow, keep track of what you do, as well as give feedback on how to improve. And that's why the Speech Evaluator is there, to pay attention to what we're saying speech-wise and to give us feedback on how to improve. And it needs to be done in a manner that makes us actually want to do it. 2 things human beings love: encouragement and challenge. Human beings love this thing. If you're not constantly encouraged in life, it can be really weighty. You can get depressed sometimes. You might want to give up. Also, if you're not challenged, it can be quite boring. You may lose motivation. We want to be challenged. And that's where the speech evaluator comes in. Now, a speech evaluator, they're going to listen to your speech and give feedback. Before the meeting, what should they do? Your speech evaluator should get a hold of your evaluation slip. Every speech that is on Pathways has an evaluation slip attached to it, where the evaluator will see the objectives of the speech and they can give feedback on that slip. They need to look at the evaluation slip in advance. They need to know the objectives they're looking out for, and afterwards be able to give feedback on it and send it back. Now, it'll be good that the speech evaluator is familiar with the speaker. You can call them, send them a message, find out, other than what is on the evaluation slip, is there anything else that you want me to watch out for? Some people will say yes, and they'll let you know specifically what they are or it is. And some will say no. And beyond that, because ideally the speech evaluator should be someone that is competent enough to deliver a speech at that level and beyond, they may be able to assist the person that is preparing to deliver their speech, especially if they are new to speaking or Toastmasters generally. Familiarize yourself with them, get the speech evaluation slip in advance. At the meeting, what should you do? When it's time for the prepared speeches, usually the speech evaluator will be called up to give the audience the objectives of the speech. At this point, you read out the objectives or you say it from memory, and then you sit down to listen to the speech. Listen to the speech, you jot down your notes. Afterwards, usually at the evaluation portion of the meeting, or it depends on your own meeting, you may do evaluation right after. When you're called up to give your evaluation, our system at Toastmasters is to use the CRC, meaning commend, recommend, and commend. Commend is state things that you liked about the speech. Why do we generally use this format? Not many of us grew up in very encouraging environments filled with love, where people told us we could achieve things in a positive way. A lot of us faced ridicule, were put down, which makes it very challenging to take constructive feedback. However, if constructive feedback is layered with commendations, it makes it so much easier. That's one of the reasons we use the commend, recommend, and commend method at Toastmasters. And what are some things that we commend? Any good points where the speech is concerned, all the way from the topic, the title that is chosen. Because when people read a title of a speech or they hear it, it can either attract them or it doesn't do anything for them, which is not where you want to be. You want a speech that will give some form of intrigue. You're wondering, what on earth is this person going to talk about? Right from there, you can give feedback on the title of the speech. The way the person stands up to approach the lectern, their handshake, their facial gestures, they start with a smile. Their speech, was it inundated with stories? Did they ask questions? How was their use of pause, vocal variety? Was it good? Were they able to transition from one topic to the next and their body followed suit? Meaning, when they are happy, could you see them actually convey being happy? And when they are sad, can you see it in their body? Because most times people believe the non-verbal communication, meaning how your body speaks, more so than the verbal communication. However, the non-verbal and your verbal should align. The speech evaluator is looking out for all these things. Note, depending on your level of competence where speeches are concerned, you will notice different things and you'll be able to give feedback on different things. Don't feel like I'm not that good. I'm not as good as Toastmaster Josephine. I'm not as good as Toastmaster Hilma, so I can't be a speech evaluator. No, we are here to get better. By the time you finish level 1, level 2, regardless of where you started from, you can actually start evaluating speeches. And the way to get better evaluating speeches is, guess what? To evaluate speeches. It doesn't mean you're going to capture everything, but you can give some form of feedback. Give commendations. By the time you're going to give recommendations, you can just highlight what they did. For instance, you can say, I love how you started the speech. First off, you told us a story. And this story, we could all relate with it. And we paid rapt attention because we wanted to know what happened. Stories are done in such a manner that people want to follow it to the end. I did observe that rather than stick to one story, you jumped to about 4 stories. An option, an alternative that you can consider is just sticking to one story. Why? Because it lets you get more in-depth into the story. So I would have stuck to the story that you told us about your mother and how she always wanted you all to cook with her in the kitchen, and take it from there to the lessons you learned. That's a way of giving a recommendation in such a manner that it doesn't seem like the speech they delivered was bad, but you're giving them an alternative by showing and saying what they did, and then giving them a solution to another way they can do it. And you can do that for every single element of a good speech. And then you end with further commendations. For our normal 5 to 7 minute speeches, evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes. I recommend 2, 2, 2. What do I mean by that? Maybe 2 commendations, 2 recommendations, 2 commendations as a starting point. You can reduce, increase in certain aspects, but you don't want to go far beyond that because 2 to 3 minutes will not permit. Note you are giving a speech. Yes, you are evaluating one person, but you're speaking before an audience, meaning you want to carry the entire audience along. Have your introduction, have your body, which is usually the evaluation, have a conclusion. Once you're done, give control back to the general evaluator, and you're done for the meeting. However, you do need to fill the evaluation slip, either at the meeting or afterwards, and send it back to the speaker. This, in summary, is what the speech evaluator does. Note, you should convey this evaluation in a positive manner, in a manner that seems as though you care about the speaker. It shouldn't be harsh. And for some of us that can be rather harsh, we have to work on our tone. As you're giving feedback on someone's speech, you also need to learn to implement those things that you're telling them to improve upon. If evaluation is properly done, the speaker will want to implement the feedback and want to speak again. That is a summary of what you do as a speech evaluator. Does anyone have a question or a comment regarding evaluating speeches? You can raise your hand or type in the chat box. I don't see any hands, and I don't see any comments in the chat box. It's 9:27, and for lack of questions or comments, we are
Good
done.
evening.
Okay, Toastmaster Marian.
Yes, good evening.
Good
Thank you
evening.
so much
Please
for
go
the
ahead.
evening and all the information that you've given us so far. Very grateful. Please, I want to ask, is it right if you notice that during a meeting, another Toastmaster starts, like saying things that are not right because of somebody's speech? Is it right? Is it something somebody should keep quiet about? Okay, let's say, for instance, okay, the person now comes in to say 1 or 2 things and now starts saying that how that person spoke wasn't right. That person is not the evaluator. Do you get it? If this person is still new in talking and probably is even trying his or her best to like express himself, and then somebody from nowhere just coming to talk. Honestly, I was shocked, but I just kept quiet because I said I don't even know if it is right in Toastmasters if somebody can talk to somebody like that. Because I want to believe that is a place where people should understand and like be positive. Thank you.
Toastmaster Marian, thank you so much for that question. I noticed that a few people just joined us. I want to let you know that officially, actually, we are done. We're addressing on that issue. We covered Toastmaster of the Day and Speech Evaluator. Now, the question is, meaning if you want to leave, please feel free to leave. But the question we're addressing now is it right for someone to address a speaker and give feedback regarding what they said in their speech, saying, oh, this was not right, that was not right, and they are not the speech evaluator? Toastmaster Marian, I attended a speech, or rather a meeting where someone gave a speech, and the person used PowerPoint in the virtual space. And somebody that was not the evaluator made a comment in the chat box to everyone. And the person spoke as well that it's not professional to use PowerPoint. They've never seen it before. That is wrong. I was just flabbergasted. In Toastmaster Marian, it's not proper to do that. It's not by any means. Now, the Toastmaster of the day ideally should address that, or the general evaluator, because the general evaluator is in charge of evaluation. The Toastmaster of the day is the host for that meeting. The person can send a private message. We are here to learn. We are creating that positive environment where people can learn. Nobody should come and say, oh, that's the wrong way to do it. You could have done it better. They can give the feedback afterwards, or with the beautiful invention of a technology like Zoom, private chat, not something for the entire room to see. Because if I see something like that, you mentioned the person was new to speaking. The person that delivered the speech that was there for, it's not new to speaking, but regardless, somebody just saying, oh, that was wrongly done, it was poorly done. No, no. There's a proper way to do it. You applaud people in public and you give them recommendations. You chastise them if there's a need for it in private. You don't do it publicly for everyone. And as I state, if it's someone that is new to speaking, there's a way you should do that compared to someone that is experienced in speaking. The person that is new to speaking needs a lot more commendations because they may not be able to handle constructive evaluations at that point, or at least not at the level of someone that is more experienced. Give them more commendations. Now, somebody that does not know them, that just comes and starts listing all the ways they did a poor job, you can really crush them. That is not something that we condone at Toastmasters by any means, which is why we choose a speech evaluator, because we believe that person knows how to give constructive feedback and just not random evaluation for everyone in the meeting. No, it is not supported. It does not create the environment. And the Toastmaster of the day or the general evaluator should stop it as soon as possible. Does that answer your question, Toastmaster Marian? I don't know if you
said it. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For those just joining, please, we are done. We are done for the day. We are now addressing other issues. So feel free to leave. I apologize that you're just joining. This is from 9 to 9:30. We are done for today. We are addressing other concerns. Please go ahead, Toastmaster Kudus.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster John. Okay, I just wanted to ask in the such scenario that you just highlighted, how will you advise that the Toastmaster of the day or the general evaluator address it? I remember the general evaluator, I know could address it when he was giving his evaluation, but the Toastmaster of the day, how will you address? How will you advise him to address it in that moment?
Thank you so much for that question. Now, I don't know what happened in the case Toastmaster Marian is referring to. I'll address the one that I was in the meeting for. Now, the one I was in the meeting where the person commented that you don't do that. If I were the Toastmaster of the day, I would unmute. It was a virtual meeting. I would unmute and say, please, I would recommend that we refrain from giving feedback. If you are not the evaluator of the speech, you can give feedback one-on-one. But at Toastmasters and at our meeting, we just don't come in and give feedback to the speaker saying that this is not done this way, it's not done this way. Have the private chat option. You can do that to the person directly, or you can reach out to them after the meeting. Because that person spoke, I would unmute and speak as well to stall them, to stop it right there, and to let everyone know that what happened was not permitted. Because what that also does, remember, we are trying to let others benefit from the training that they experience at Toastmasters. If I'm a first-time guest and somebody is speaking, and some other person just randomly unmutes and starts saying, no, 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 it's not done like that. That's not professional. That's not this. I'm a first-time guest. Most likely I'm going to be scared. I'm going to think, is this how they're going to be looking at my speech, and somebody will just randomly unmute and tell me, oh, that's bad? No, I'll withdraw into my shell. I'll not be interested in joining. That person is not only distorting the friendly, conducive environment we want to create, but it's also scaring off guests that may have decided to join. If they speak, I will speak as well. Now, if they write, I will probably send them a private message to either refrain from that, or if I have their WhatsApp contact, I'll address that. The situation that Toastmaster Marian experienced, I don't know exactly how that went, but the one I experienced, if I were the Toastmaster of the day or the general evaluator, I would address it like that. Does that help, Toastmaster Kudus?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Toastmaster Ihoma, please go ahead.
The question I want to ask is not related to either of this, but I just said that I should take advantage of you being here. I'll be presenting a social speech, and then it's like a eulogy. And I was wondering, if it's a eulogy, I'm not going to be saying fellow Toastmasters and guests. I should be saying family and friends or something like that. How does it play out? Then at the end, I'm not supposed to say the Toastmaster. Should I say thank you? I'm a bit confused.
Toastmaster Ihoma, have you delivered any eulogy before?
No.
Okay. Just as you surmised, you are not going to be saying Toastmasters and guests. You imagine yourself actually delivering the eulogy at someone's funeral. How would you address the audience? Would you say SARS, MAS, family, and friends? However you would address them there, that is how you should address them when you're giving the eulogy. But at the end, once you're done, end how you intend to end the eulogy, but still hand back control to the Toastmaster of the day. Meaning you are done once you end it the way you end the eulogy, but now you're handing back control to the Toastmaster of the day. Does that make sense?
Thank you. It makes sense. But incidentally, I'm the Toastmaster of the day at that meeting. So
yes.
who do I hand over to?
You hand back control to yourself. Now, what I do when I'm delivering a speech and I'm the Toastmaster of the day, or I'm playing roles, I would ensure that the audience applaud me well. I would introduce myself if that's the first time. I would introduce myself or just call my name, since ideally I should have been introduced before. And I'll tell them to applaud me well, meaning applaud the person coming up with me. Otherwise, they won't step up. And when they do that, I'll just take a step to the side and come back again and start as though I was speaking for the first time. And once I'm done, our hand control it to the Toastmaster of the day, happens to be me. I'll tell them to really applaud the Toastmaster of the day. Step aside and come back. Now, what that does, it infuses humor into the meeting. Because most times, it's rare that if I do that, people don't laugh at the meeting. They're wondering, he's introducing himself and is saying that we should please give a round of applause that will shake the room, or however I'm going to say it. And he steps aside and comes back. They will laugh, meaning I'm connecting more with them, and the meeting is enjoyable. And even gives you that boost to play your role or deliver your speech effectively, or at a different level that you may have otherwise. Does that make sense, Toastmaster Ihoma?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My recommendation is to come up with an idea of how you want to do it, something that works with your personality, and rehearse that until you're comfortable. And if you don't know, reach out to someone that you think can give you a good idea on how to do that and rehearse with them. I believe you get something that you can infuse.
I've already written the speech and I started practicing, but I got stuck because I didn't know how I should be presenting the eulogy. And I'm saying fellow Toastmasters and guests, it didn't seem right. That's what I wanted to ask him. Thank you.
That's fine. You're welcome. Toastmaster Chidalu, please go ahead.
Good evening, Toastmaster John. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Please
Unfortunately, I just joined like a few minutes ago, so I apologize, and I must have missed a few introductory teachings or messages that you must have put out there. So I just want to ask two questions. So I'll be having my first evaluation tomorrow. I'll be evaluating a speaker. Okay. So I just want to know what to look out for, how to introduce my evaluation, what to look out for in a speech, how to conduct my evaluation proper. And then the second question is, what of a situation where a speaker does not have any recommendations? Because I understand that the tradition for evaluation is the CRC, that's commend, recommend, and commend. So what's of a case where a speaker does not have any faults? How am I going to go about it? I shouldn't be manufacturing or lying or trying to forcefully recommend when there is no recommendation. So I just want to have an idea or just know what to look out for tomorrow, because it's going to be my first evaluation exercise. Thank you.
You're welcome. And welcome. You've missed everything actually, because the session is from 9 to 9:30. Here we're just answering questions. That being said, congratulations in evaluating a speech in Toastmasters for the first time. Kudos to you. I'll start from the second question that you stated. If you cannot see any recommendations, yes, do not lie by any means. All that means is you give commendations, you have your introduction, give commendations, and you end with your conclusion. That's all. It happens quite often, especially when we have newer speakers evaluating speeches or speakers evaluating other speakers that are more experienced, because you may be at a position where you just can't see things to improve because of where you are. I've been to numerous meetings where the speech evaluator comes up and they give commendations and say, I could not see any recommendation. And I could see at least 3 or 4 recommendations because of my experience in speaking. That's okay. We are here to learn by doing. You don't have to be able to spot the recommendations to be a speech evaluator. Do not lie. State what you see. If you see any recommendation, then yes, commendations, recommendations, commendations. If you don't, it's just commendations, commendations, and you end. I start with that. Now, what should you pay attention to? Can you list some things that you think we should pay attention to when someone delivers a speech? Toastmaster Chidalu.
Hold on. Oh, yes. For a speech, typically, body language, eye contact, vocal variety, clarity of expression. I think that's about it.
Yes.
I'm sure I did not list everything. You could help me.
Of course, yes. There's quite a bit, but you've listed some great things. Do you have the evaluation slip for the speaker?
Yes. TMQ.
What are the objectives of the speech?
Writing a speech with purpose.
That is now the core element that you should pay attention to. This speech I've listened to, does it actually have a purpose? Because you want to know if the speaker met the objectives of the speech. These speakers are going to be delivering a number of speeches with different objectives. Even if it's a great speech and they don't meet the objectives, I recommend that the speaker give it again. The focus is meeting the objectives of that speech.
The
They
speech.
need to deliver a speech with purpose. That being said, what you've listed plus some other things, how did they start the speech? Did they smile? Did they use stories to engage people? Because one of the best ways to communicate anywhere in the world, because we're human beings, stories. Did they ask questions to engage us? So we actively participate versus passively participate. It's easier to learn and recall when you use questions versus just stating things. Was the introduction captivating? How about the conclusion? Because there are three core elements in every speech that you remember: introduction, conclusion, and emotional highlights, meaning the highs, the happier points, or the lows, the sad moments. Did you pay attention to that? Did they use quotes, for instance? Because quotes is a way of taking the power of somebody of note and using that without going through the years of learning that they had to experience. It's a great way to actually elevate your speech, simply using quotes of notable personalities. These are a few things that you can look at. Even the way they're dressed. The way you're dressed, was it captivating? Did they seem comfortable? Did they appear like they actually believed in what they were saying? Because you convey emotions through your speech. A speech is a conversation between two individuals. It's transferring emotions from one to the other. These are all elements that you can look at. But if you are just starting out, you may not be able to pay attention to all. Pay attention to what you can at that moment. And the more you do it, the better equipped you become to note more things that you can give feedback on. Does that help, Toastmaster Chidalu?
Yes, please. Can I just add one more question?
Please,
So
please go ahead.
You just mentioned a few things that I have to look out for. But for the speech objective, which is writing a speech with purpose, what if the speaker is not properly dressed, or the speaker does not have very good vocal variety or body language, but the speech is top-notch? Do you think I should still recommend and evaluate the other sides of where the person did not perform, like in terms of body language, etc., and leave the speech purpose? Because I was thinking I'm supposed to evaluate objective and not anything else. Anything else is not important. Or is that how it goes, or no?
No. Great question, Toastmaster Chidalu. The speech purpose is the core objective. However, you're going to look at the entire speech. You give feedback on the entire speech. Do they meet the objectives of the speech? Yes, they do not need to repeat the speech. They've met the objectives. But you can still give them evaluation on the entire structure of the speech. A good speech versus a bad speech. Why? Because you want them to improve as a speaker, generally speaking. Did they not meet the objectives of the speech? If they did not, regardless of how exceptional the speech was, they should redo that speech. Why? The objective is taking them through a growth process. Every objective that is highlighted is supposed to help them learn certain skills. And if they don't learn the skill for that speech, it is not recommended that they move on. But if they learn the skill of that speech, but they're missing other elements, it's okay, because the core purpose was achieved. Does that make sense, Toastmaster Chidalu?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Evaluate the speech generally, but ensure that you're paying attention first to if they met the objectives.
All right.
Well
Thank
done.
you so
I'm
much.
sure you do a great job.
I hope to. Thank you.
You're welcome. Toastmaster Mohammed, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster John. This is the first time I'm meeting you. I'm from Kano Toastmasters Club.
Welcome.
I joined about 2 years ago. Do table topics about 3 remarkable ones, but have not been able to do my first speech. So I am encouraged by your discussions this evening also to rekindle my efforts. Now I have a high-level panel discussion on December 12th. I don't know whether Toastmasters Club provides support for such kind of training for such kind of discussions, or maybe what strategies can I use and how can you support me through the process of delivering that panel discussions perfectly? Thank you.
Toastmaster Mohammed, welcome. Thank you for joining this section that we have every Friday, 9 to 9:30. For those just joining, we are done. This is 9 to 9:30. This is beyond tonight's role players training segment. We're answering other questions. Toastmaster Mohammed, I'm glad that we've rekindled your passion to actually speak and grow. Do we handle panel discussions? Yes, they're actually different projects that focus exclusively on discussions. Now, my question for you is, are you one of the panelists or you're the moderator of the panel discussion?
I'm part of the panelists.
You're part of the panelists. Okay.
Yes.
Essentially, if you're part of the panelists, then all you need to work on is delivering a speech. That's all. It's nothing unique to a panel session. If you're the moderator of the panel session, then it's something that you need to be coached on because it's unique. You need to learn how to segue from one speaker to the next, how to implement what was said from one panelist and use that to ask the question for the next, prepare the questions. That's different. You're a panelist. All you need to learn really is how to be comfortable, confident, and give responses to the questions. Can people assist you with that? Absolutely. Let me ask, are you privy to the questions in advance?
Yes, that's what I would need to find out from them, even though I am a master of that particular topic, but likely questions could not be given to us. It's going to be impromptu.
That's fine. What is the topic, generally speaking?
The topic is about the implementation we made about prevention of sexual violence.
And who are you going to be speaking in front of?
United States Agency for AIDS in Nigeria. United States AIDS.
And what is the goal? What is the goal?
Hello?
Yes, what is the goal of that panel session? Is it to raise funds or the goal of the session?
The goal of the session is to give project dissemination, and at the same time, it could also be an avenue for fundraising by disseminating the best practices and achievements of the project.
Okay. Now, here's my recommendation. One, you can actually reach out to me and other Toastmasters to help you prepare for this panel session. Or two, a lot of the questions they ask, if you have a story to use to answer it, I highly recommend a story or a few anecdotes. Why do I say this? Ideally, many of the people you'll be speaking in front of are actually conversant with this topic. They are experts, perhaps, or even if they are not, stories connect, stories will move the emotions. And if you're trying to raise funds and bring awareness, the story is the ideal path to follow. Because when you tell the story, you're also going to stand out. Ask a question about the impact of this, and people are just stating statistics and giving this. Yes, we've heard it before. We're listening to 3 other panelists say the same thing, but someone comes with a story about somebody in the village or in town and how they will take care of their family because of this disease that they contracted. And by the time you tell the story and tell it well, ideally, people are moved emotionally, and they now bring in statistics to buttress that fact. This is one story, but we have over 100,000 people experiencing the same thing. How many families are impacted by something like that? that connects with the people. They remember it. You really stand out amongst the rest of it. Stories are a great way to answer questions, especially when you're on a panel. Unfortunately, not many people do that. They don't utilize this simple way of connecting with human beings. So I highly recommend that if there's a question that is asked and you can answer with stories, it should always be your go-to. That being said, like I started, I'm available, other people are available to help prep you for a segment like this. By the time you get more details, and then you can come up with maybe practice questions, for instance, then it can prep you towards that. Does that help, Toastmaster Mohammed?
Really, thank you so much, Toastmaster John. Really helps.
You are very much welcome. I'm glad to hear that. Any other questions, any other comments before we're done? Once again, those of you that came in late, I apologize, but 9 to 9:30, we are done by 9:30. We're here every Friday. We cover 2 roles that will help us be more effective in delivering our roles in our club. Why? Because we want to be better. Toastmasters, we come to a conducive, friendly environment to become better public speakers. And one of the ways we do that is by playing roles in our club meeting. And the roles have different elements assigned to them. They are not scary, but we need to be aware of those elements. And to be better in playing those roles, you actually need to play them often, get feedback, implement the feedback, and play them again. Those of you that were here early enough to look at the Toastmaster of the day as well as speech evaluators, if you're already in a position where you can play those roles, I highly recommend that you play those roles. And if you're scared, it's okay. As long as you have the experience to know the order of the meeting, you can play the role of Toastmaster of the day. As long as you finish level 1, level 2, you can be a speech evaluator. We have Toastmaster Hioma playing the role of Toastmaster of the day for the first time. We have Toastmaster Chidalu playing the role of speech evaluator for the first time. You can do it as well. I recommend you use what you've learned and implement it. Any other questions, any other comments before we're done? Toastmaster Chidalu, if you need more assistance and you have time, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to anyone else. Toastmaster Mohammed, if there's no one in your club that can assist, as I said, you can reach out to me as well. Let me drop my number just in case you don't have it, Toastmaster Mohammed, because this is the first time that you're joining and or at least you're seeing me. I didn't get to see your face. I'm seeing a picture here. I like to believe that's you. I just dropped my number in the chat. If you think that you want my assistance, please go ahead and reach out. With that being said, I don't see any hands up. I don't see any comments. I hope everyone has a very restful evening. Enjoy your weekend if you're going to Toastmasters, if you're going for a function, whatever it is you're doing. And if we're going to play or learn the 2 roles that we're playing next week, if it's important to you, we'll be here from 9 to 9:30. I don't believe those who show up early should suffer for those who show up late. If there's one person here at 9 o'clock, we start at 9 o'clock and we're done by 9:30. Take care, everyone, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Toastmaster John. Good night, everyone. Have
Good
a
night,
civilized night rest.
Take
Bye.
care.
Good night.
Bye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Toastmaster John. Good night.